Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Oz Cro Soccer Show. It's episode 32, season 2 in fact, and tonight's episode is proudly presented to you by and sponsored by ZLENDIC Studio Architecture. Good evening folks, my name is Tonci Prusats. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you again here tonight. We've got a very, very special show lined up for you tonight, and it's time to now welcome my new co-host, and what a pleasure it is to have his company, Ante Grabovac. Good evening, Ante. Looking a little bit fuzzy there, just like the weather here in Victoria. I don't know what it's like up in Sydney, but yeah, hopefully it's a little bit nicer, mate. How are you today? And hope things are all well with you.
Yeah, all's good, Tonci. Actually I'm not happy with the result. Herschel Zagreb got kicked out of the Australia Cup last night, so still trying to get over that. It was, that's a big shame. But other than that, all's good. Weather's fine up here, and getting ready for another great show, and obviously a weekend of jam-packed football, and just like we had last weekend with the Easter weekend.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was a great episode last week, a ripper episode. It was great to have a live cross to North Geelong Warriors. It was their first win of the season. Nick Kosdra coming in live from Elko Park. That was something we tried. That was something different we tried. Hopefully we'll have that more and more this year. Stjepan Gal from St. Albans Dynamo joined us as well to talk about the big I&D day that they had last week. And but the highlight of the night, Melbourne Knights president Pavel Yusuf, a very emotional, very patriotic filled interview last week. How good was that? And they celebrated their 70th birthday in great style this Monday, Easter Monday. And I actually saw Pavel last night at Tullamarine Airport. He was on his way to Croatia, and the Australian-Croatian under-14 select team. There was a few boys from Sydney, a few boys from Melbourne, one from Geelong, and they all departed Australian shores last night. So they will be in action this weekend in Vukovar. And hopefully next week, we'll have an interview from Croatia with Jure Dragovic, who's the president of the Croatian Soccer Association of Australia. Fingers crossed that will come about, and we'll be able to get the latest news that is happening with regards to that tournament. But apart from that, mate, we've got a jam-packed show tonight, aren't we? All courtesy of ZLENDIC Studio Architecture, our episode sponsors, and Robbie Slavicek, an old Sydney boy who moved down to Melbourne for a short time and now resides over in Perth. Big cheerio to Robbie Slavicek and his family there as well. But what's coming on the show tonight, Ante?
Oh, there's a lot, Tonci. Of course, we're going to go through the news desk, so cover all the games over the weekend and upcoming games this weekend as well, plus the Australia Cup, of course. Then we've got a special guest, which is Dean ZLENDIC, who is the Western Knights president. So we're looking forward to talking to him and discussing all things Western Knights. They've got a big game this weekend, which I'm sure we'll cover as well. And then after that, we've got Ian Eric, who will be joining us as well. And he is the technical director from the Western Knights, talking to us all about obviously the junior setup and the senior setup. And, hopefully they can develop some really good players over in the West there for us.
Now, last year with my co-host Dan, who's tuning in, Josip Žilić, he says, Dobro večer, momci. Good evening, Josipe. We love chatting to young talent, Australian Croatian talent. We love talking to various community clubs, Croatian community clubs, about their junior setup and some of the things that they're achieving. And there's been some great success. And my club down at North Geelong has been some great success just last week. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the news desk. But I'm really looking forward to, I think his name's pronounced Ian Eric or Ian Eric. We'll get it straight from the horse's mouth when we speak to him a little bit later on, as well as Dean ZLENDIC a bit later on. But mate, we're going to get ready for the news desk straight away, and you're going to get yourself ready for the news desk. But folks, in the meantime, if you'd like to advertise, if you'd like to sponsor an upcoming episode of the Oz Cro Soccer Show, or if you'd like to be advertised on our show, on our podcast, contact us now by emailing ozcrosoccershow@gmail.com. So that's ozcrosoccershow@gmail.com, or call us on 0402 012 716. We're going to take a very, very, very short break, and Auntie's going to be back with all the news in the news desk. Don't go away, folks.
Yes, thank you so much, Tonci. We've got a few hellos already coming through from Isco32 and from my co-host and co-commentator from last night at the Australia Cup game, Tony Pavard. Double to you too, my friend. Indeed. But let's start out in the West, just like we're going to focus on this evening in our show. We have got a big 5-0 result on the weekend by the Western Knights over Rockingham City, and there were 5 different goal scorers in that particular match, so that's really exciting and great news for the Knights, which sees them at the top of the table after 3 rounds with 3 straight wins, 11 goals for, 1 goal against, so they're doing really well, and I'm sure that we'll be able to cover all of that in this evening's show. With the other big team in the West, we've got Guelph, Croatia. They had a 0-0 draw against Gosnells, and they are sitting in 8th position. As you can see, this weekend there is a very big match. Saturday evening, April 15, 7 p.m., the Western Knights are taking on the DNL White Eagles. So that's always a interesting derby. And then, of course, Guelph, Croatia are playing against Murdoch Uni on Saturday afternoon at 5 p.m. Both of those games are away from home for the teams from the West. Moving on
games.
to adult.
Yeah, big. I was going to say some big games there, but Western Knights, they can really steer away from the competition there with a big win over the Serbian-backed White Eagles. And Guelph could do sister club Western Knights a huge favour by holding down Murdoch United, who are currently in 2nd spot. So, big weekend of football happening over in the West. Hopefully the cyclone won't put Emma stuff too much. But we'll talk to Dean ZLENDIC shortly after the news desk. Yeah, moving along.
Indeed. Over into South Australia, and we've got the Adelaide Croatia Raiders unfortunately lost by 2-1 against Burkala, but that hasn't stopped the Raiders from sitting high on the top of the table after 7 matches and sitting on 15 points with 5 wins and 2 losses. And this Friday night, they actually take on Adelaide Victory at the Croatian Sports Centre, 8 p.m. kickoff there. So go out there, everyone in Adelaide, and support the Raiders. In Capital Football, they had a break on the weekend after the first round, which was a 1-1 draw in the Croatian derby. And then this weekend sees Canberra, Croatia playing Tuggeranong United. And then also on Saturday at O'Connor Enclosed, that's a home match for O'Connor Knights against Canberra Olympic. And that's a 3 p.m. kickoff on Saturday afternoon. So get on down there and support your club. Moving over into the South Coast United on Good Friday, they had a bit of a classic encounter, losing by 4 goals to 5 against the Tarrawanna Blueies. It was actually 4-4 in that particular fixture, and Tarrawanna scored a late winner, and that sees South Coast being second last on the table currently.
Come on, you Wollongong Croats. Let's get ourselves off the, well, I won't say foot off the table, but it is basically it's equal bottom.
That's right.
So let's get that moving.
1 draw.
Yeah, up further north to sunnier climes and the Gold Coast Knights. Well, they're within striking distance of the top team, fellow Gold Coast side, Gold Coast United, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely right. They are, Tonci, and so they are absolutely on fire. And they defeated Brisbane City by 2-1 on the weekend, and they are sitting in 4th spot. And they play the Brisbane Raw Youth this weekend, so hopefully they can get that particular victory. 5:15 kickoff at the Gold Coast Croatia Sports Centre. Sorry, that's not this weekend. That's on April 22. They've got this funny tournament in between the Premier League up there in the Gold Coast. We'll have to talk to the Gold Coast Knights about that and what that's all about. But yeah, so Saturday, April 22, they've got the home game against the Brisbane Raw Youth. Moving over to NPL Victoria, where there was a big derby, of course. Huge celebrations in Melbourne on the weekend, on Monday, Easter Monday, Destitravan, and this actual birthday of the Melbourne Knights, Melbourne, Croatia. And the Melbourne Knights ended up defeating North Geelong by 3-2 in an absolute classic. The Knights actually led by 3-0 through goals by Sewell and Bramwell and Nepomenico. And in the 54th minute, it was 3-0. And then North Geelong came back with Josip Franjic in the 67th. Josip scoring an own goal there in the 67th, and Luke Živčić scoring in the 95th minute, and so that made it 3-2. So a good battle for everyone who came out to celebrate the 70th birthday of the Melbourne Knights.
Now, it was a good crowd, Ante, but off air we were just saying we're a little bit disappointed that there wasn't a big crowd. Now, whether it's because it was Easter Monday or whether it was other things or whatever. But look, let's harp on the positives here, folks. From the North Geelong perspective, it was really good to see 3 teenagers make their appearance, in the second half. One of them was 17-year-old Luke Živčić. He scored his first senior goal. So he's now played 3 or 4 games or so, thereabouts, whatever, in the seniors, all games coming off the bench. But in the about the 70th minute or 75th minute thereabouts, 16-year-old Marko Juric also came on to make his senior debut. Now, for the St Albans Dinamo folk, they will know his mother's maiden name, Morvric, very, very well known down at St Albans Dinamo. But the youngster, he's done very, very well. He made his senior debut for the for North Geelong at the Melbourne Knights, and that's certainly going to be. Look, North Geelong are struggling at the moment, but there is, it's very good to see that there are a lot of. If we go back on that the ladder. On the field, things don't look that well. 7 losses, consecutive losses. They're at the foot of the table, but they've got a lot of these youngsters coming up through the ranks. And if you kind of look at it kind of medium to long term, things are looking really good. Now, Ante, the other good thing about North Geelong, for those of you that understand the Victorian Junior NPL system, they have an 11-round grading system. So they've got 4 zones: West, South, East and North. And in the Western Zone, we've got North Geelong, St Albans Dinamo and Melbourne Knights. Now, the top 3 teams, after the 11-round grading season, they go into Division 1. Teams from 4, 5 and 6 go into Division 2, and everything from 7 below go into Division 3. So they play a 22-round season thereafter. North Geelong have got all of their 4 teams, the under-14s, the 15s, the 16s and the 18s have all qualified for Division 1. And that's a pretty amazing record. I don't think any of the clubs outside of the A-League Academy system have managed to do that. So good
That's
on
incredible.
Everyone down at North Geelong doing a great job there. It's great to see a lot of the young players. And it's good to see a lot of the kids that are of Australian Croatian extraction really, really doing well. And then there are a lot of kids that aren't of Australian Croatian extraction, but that have been at the club for many, many years. And in fact, some cases they've worked their way up from under 7. So yeah, some good things on the horizon as far as that's concerned.
That'll bear fruit in the future. That is really, really good news. And yeah, it's good to see so many youngsters that you mentioned there, Tonci, getting a go in first grade, because that's how they'll grow as footballers as well. So very, very good news there. In the other match that happened in the Victorian Premier League on the weekend, Port Melbourne unfortunately defeated St Albans by 2-1. As you can see on the table, the Knights sit in 5th spot. St Albans are in 11th and North Geelong are at the foot of the ladder, but the only way is up, and let's hope that they can do that. Also on the weekend in NPL 2 in Victoria, Dandenong City ended up winners with a 4-0 win over Langwarrin, and they are sitting in 7th position at this particular point in time. This weekend's fixtures, the Melbourne Knights are away on Saturday, 3 p.m. kickoff. On Friday, St Albans are away as well. That's an 8:30 p.m. kickoff. The only home team is North Geelong, so get on down there and support North Geelong. Tonci, did you say you were commentating on this match?
Yes. If you can't get down to it, or if you're one of our interstate supporters or fans, tune into npl.tv, and that game will be streamed live. And yours truly, hopefully, will be commentating there. I hope to have Craig Filer, who is my co-host from the Football Out West Show podcast that I also co-host and produce on a Sunday night. He will also be my sidekick there on Saturday. So it's a must-win game, Ante. It's one of those The North Geelong are sitting in last position. Dandenong Thunder's in third last, so it's a must-win game. It's one of those cool, and I love this term. I love it. The 6-pointer. It's a 6-pointer game, Ante. It really, really, truly is. North need a win. They need a big, big win. They still haven't appointed a permanent coach, so whether Tommy Gavran, the Melbourne Knights and North Geelong playing legend, whether he's going to remain in a permanent role. At the moment, he's kind of a caretaker along with the seniors. The under-21s coach, Sean Mann, who's returned to the club after a bit of a break. It will be interesting, but hopefully, fingers crossed, that North Geelong can get up. And of course, a bit of a boil over there on Saturday.
That's right. Good luck with the call there, Tonci. And on Friday night, we've got Dandy away against Moreland Zebras. Moving over to Sydney. Sydney United had a fantastic 1-0 win over Blacktown City. Our defence and our goalkeeper, Daniel Nizic, had a terrific match. I think even the post saved us on one or two occasions. So Sydney United sort of dug in and got the winner through Patrick Antelmi's 6th of the season. And so now Sydney United are sitting in 5th position. And this weekend they travel away Sunday afternoon against the Wollongong Wolves, which is always a great fixture. So, anyone who's traveling down there, enjoy the game.
Absolutely.
On the weekend, they drew 0-0 with the Western Rage. They're sitting in 10th position. And this weekend, they're at home at Penzas Park against the South Coast Flames. And, of course, that comes off the back of last night. We've already mentioned it, and that was the Australia Cup fixture against Sydney University, whereby Sydney University ended up winning by 1-0, which was a goal in the 101st minute of the match by substitute Brett Wilson. Also in the play for that particular goal was a fellow by the name of Daniel Barrett, who was also a substitution. And those of you with long memories might remember his father playing in the NSL for Sydney Olympic and Sydney United, Mr. David Barrett. So there you go. That's the way it was. You know, Zagreb basically had, I kept the stats in the match when Tony and I were doing the commentary. It was basically 10 shots on goal to 3 in the first half. And it really was, you know, Hurstville not taking their opportunities. Everyone was gutted but at the end of the match because we had so many opportunities to put Sydney University away. But it was 0-0 at full time. And unfortunately, University got that winner in extra time, and Zagreb weren't able to get anything on the scoreboard. And so they are out of the Australia Cup, unfortunately, for 2023.
Yeah, that's a shame. What do you do? Unfortunately, that was the case. That's what it is. But great to see yourself and Tony Chavard back in the commentator's chair there. Is that going to be a regular gig for all of Zagreb's games or just the home games?
It's only for the Australia Cup. We only do it. We can't do it otherwise because of rights and things like that. So it's the Australia Cup. But we do have a host of Croatian teams still alive in the Australia Cup, Tonci, and they include Gold Coast Knights, Glenorchy Knights, St Albans Saints, Dandenong, North Geelong, Melbourne Knights, Western Knights, Guelph, and of course tomorrow night, Sydney United are actually taking on the Inner West Hawks. So get on down there if you are in Sydney. 7:30 p.m. kickoff at the Sydney United Sports Centre. And if you're in Canberra on Tuesday night, Canberra, Croatia taking on the Monaro Panthers as well. So get on down to Riverside Stadium. I don't know. There's something special about the Australia Cup. It's high profile. We love the upsets. Look at that run that Sydney United had last year, all the way to the final, beating A-League teams. It was just sensational. It was absolutely spectacular. So really enjoyable. And get out and support your clubs through the Australia Cup. Hopefully,
Sydney United's fairy tale run last year has inspired a lot of the other Croatian clubs around, because I know a lot of the clubs, and particularly a lot of the NPL clubs, when it comes to the cups, they take it, it's only just sort of it's a nuisance, it's a pain in the butt. They might feel their younger players and this and that. And even though that's good, it gives some of the younger players an opportunity to taste senior football. I think I'd love to see more of our clubs take take the cup a little bit more serious. And why? It just means that, look, if they get to the 32, wow, like the sort of coverage, the national coverage will get, and like, the profile that Sydney United got, apart from what happened in the final and all of that negative publicity, but leading up to it was absolutely fantastic. And I know a few years back when the Melbourne Knights made it through against, was it Perth? No, was it Perth Glory? I can't remember. Adelaide United, I think it was. And it was about 3,500 on the midweek, and it was just like the good old days. And look, speaking of Melbourne Knights, I mean South Melbourne, the big rival down there, they've been eliminated by another Greek club just the other night on Monday, Kingston City. So they're not in the competition anymore. So really, the Melbourne Knights have got this golden opportunity to just get through to the next round. I think they play. I can't remember who they play, but it is a lowly side. I think it is in the next round, which is round 6. I think it is, and I think the draw was just done today, if I'm not mistaken. So their next opponent is not a high-profile opponent. North Geelong is still in it as well, down in Victoria. So I'd love to see more and more clubs really, really taking it a little bit more seriously. But anyway, moving along, mate. We're now going to turn our attention to what's happening overseas, hey?
Indeed, yes, we sure can. Tonci, obviously, in Croatia, the table looks in this particular fashion. Dinamo, of course, is leading the way. But, of course, the big news of the week was the big cup set. Speaking about cup sets, of course, Šibenik defeated Dinamo last week, just a couple hours after we went off air. And it was huge. And, of course, Šibenik had a big week of celebration. Not only that particular victory, so they've made the final of the Croatia Cup, but also it was the 40th anniversary of their fan club, the Funsuti, who are actually not only support them in football, but in basketball and in a whole host of other sports, even Mali Nogomet, etc. So look at these images that are on your screen. This happened on Monday night because that was the actual 40th anniversary on 10. Travanj. And, Šibenik Gori, it was just spectacular. It was amazing. And, just a beautiful, beautiful celebration of a fantastic fan club and a fan group over in Šibenik. And good luck to Šibenik. Hopefully they can win the cup as well.
Yeah, look, that's amazing. I mean, it looks like it's bushfire season already, come a little bit early in Dalmatia, but it's not the case. No, that was like, I think it was the Funsuti trying to do, them and Torcida, there's a real hate relationship, a real rivalry, which is sad, but unfortunately that is the case. And I know when the Torcida celebrated Hajduk's 100th anniversary, when was that, in 2011, all of Split was burning. And those things, those photographs, those images are very reminiscent of that, like I think during the Gulf War or whatever it was, that it didn't look like that at all. But speaking of the cup, Hajduk take on Slaven Belupo in Koprivnica tomorrow morning, in fact at 1:30 a.m. our time. The winner of that will take on Šibenik in the final in Rijeka. So that's going to be interesting because Rijeka's kind of, it'll be a bit of a... what's the word? Neutral zone. And look, club officials were a little bit worried because the Rujevica fits, I think it's about 8,500 capacity with its famous cage for the away supporters. Now, they were very worried if Hajduk came up against Dinamo because Rijeka's supporters, the Armada, hate both, and probably Hajduk more than Dinamo. But... now that there's no Dinamo, Šibenik is going to be that club that's probably the Armada will probably support a little bit more because of their mutual hatred of Hajduk fans. Now, if Slaven get in, this is going to be interesting. They've got some sort of a fan club, a new Podravski Strukli or something like that, and it's all kids. They're all just lovable kids. They're all juniors. They're all about 10 to 14, 10 to 15, whatever.
That's fantastic.
I wonder if they're going to travel, and I wonder if they're going to have to get a parental slip signed, first of all, by their parents allowing them to travel and this and that. Although they do things in
Croatia. It's Croatia.
They do things a little bit different.
They'll just hitchhike. They'll hitchhike there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Tony Chavara says Knights versus Box Hill. Thank you, Tony Chavara. That was the club that they're playing against. Yep, it is. That's right. It's Melbourne Knights taking on Box Hill United, which is an NPL 3 outfit in their next Australia Cup competition. But yeah, back to Croatia. That's going to be real interesting. So yeah, we as of tomorrow morning, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Hajduk has not won in Koprivnica for about 3 or 4 years. So it's a bit of a hurdle, an obstacle. And I guess it all comes back down to, how is that man going to be feeling? Marko Livaja. Like, love it or not,
Yes.
everything revolves around Marko Livaja as far as Hajduk Split is concerned. And if he's in
He's
form,
leading all the stats.
He's leading all the stats. He's amazing, but one man can't do everything, and he's really going to need a lot of support from all of the Hajduk crew. But speaking of Hajduk was recently in Zadar, the juniors actually, and carrying the Vienats there on the left, second from left, is Luka Jakobušić, the president of Hajduk Split. Now, this was at the opening of the Hrvoje Čustić International Football Tournament, which is a junior tournament every year in Zadar. There's about 1,500 supporters that turned up. Hrvoje Čustić, for those of you that don't know, he was a senior team footballer with Zadar, who unfortunately, tragically got killed, believe it or not, during a game. Because if we'll bring that photo up again, I don't remember the exact date. Folks in Chatland might know, but if you can see in the background, there's basically like concrete walls all around the stadium, and he slid. And those concrete walls at the time were something like 2 meters away from the edge of the line. Now, it's only Croatia. But tragically, young Čustić slid head first and headbutted the concrete wall, and lost consciousness, never regained consciousness. It was one of the true tragedies of modern day Croatian football, and this is something that's been going on for years and years and years. People in Croatian football are saying we need government funding, we need government support to improve the infrastructure. We've talked about this so many times. Last year we had a couple of guests from Croatia, Eugene Brčić, Sydney, Josip Šimunić as well. We've had a few other people as well who's talked about the need to improve the infrastructure in Croatia. Look, the Pampas, Osijek's new stadium, state-of-the-art stadium, that's only months, weeks away from actual completion. So that's awesome. There's been talk that there's going to be a major renovation of stadiums, I think 10 in actual fact, all around Croatia, and in fact, including, I think, Zadar Stanover Stadium. The sooner that happens, the better, so that doesn't happen again. But it was beautiful to see, both Zadar and Hajduk's clubs. And there's Marijan Kustic in the middle there. He's the president of the Croatian Football Federation as well. He was there as well just to pay homage to something that should never have happened, and someone that should never have lost their life playing the game that we all love. It was tragic, but it is what it is. Now, moving along to on this day.
On this day, that's right, Tonci. Unbelievable stuff. So on this particular day, which was April 12, 1998. It was actually the last round of that particular season, and Sydney United were away to Wollongong, and there was 6,500 people there, which is a decent crowd. You can see the team. David Barrett, who we already mentioned in the show, was there. Velimir Kupashak, what a legend. Richard Plesher, Joe Verkic, some great names there. Young Michael Santalab, Mark Rudan, Jason Chulina, fantastic squad. And so Sydney United ended up finishing 4th that particular season. That was a season, if people remember, we were forced to play our home games at Parramatta Stadium, but we won't remember that too much or talk about that too much. And unfortunately, the Knights needed a big result to get into the 6 on that particular day, even though they were far behind on for and against. But they ended up having a catastrophic 5-0 loss to Marconi Fairfield. But you can see some great names in the Marconi squad. We've got Ante Čović and Mark Babic, both of who went on to great careers. And, of course, we've also got the Melbourne Knights squad. You can see some fantastic names there. Tom Pondyak, Ivan Kelic, Damon Kalina. Alan Davidson was still playing at that particular point in time. There you go. And Ransford Benini. Jeez, there you go. There's a name I haven't heard.
Benini. Ransford Benini. And, mate, what I wanted to allude to there is if you look at the Sydney United and the Melbourne Knights squads, both the Sydney United and Melbourne Knights had 7 players of Croatian extraction, Australian Croatian extraction. But if you look at the Wollongong City and the Marconi Fairfield, there's Croatian names amongst them as well, as you mentioned, Čović, Babic, Željko Babic for Marconi, and then we look over to Wollongong City, they had a couple there as well. Those days were just, this is 1998, so what's that, 25 years ago or thereabouts, whatever.
It is exactly 25 years ago today.
Yeah, exactly. On this day. You know what? It's amazing. Yeah, back that era, it produced so many quality young Australian Croatian players who were given an opportunity. Let's hope this national second division really, really does take off and provides that avenue. But we talked about, North Geelong and some of the good junior players coming up through the ranks as well. But, it's like that all over the case, all over the country. And look, if Sydney United gets into the National Second Division, if Melbourne Knights get into the National Second Division, Gold Coast Knights get into National Second Division, Canberra, Croatia, or whichever club, hopefully that's going to provide a lot of inspiration for young Australian Croatian footballers to see a pathway that they could, use that maybe as a stepping stone to go to Europe or to Croatia or to wherever. And we might once again start to generate a whole new generation of Australian Croatian footballers, like was the case 25 years ago. Like when you look at those names, and there are still people involved in football. Ante Kovacevic is involved in football, Ivan Jolic as well, John Didlitzer down at Melbourne Victory, Joey Didlitzer at North Geelong. Then we look along over here as well on the Mark Rudan, obviously. It's just
Coach
amazing.
of the Wanderers.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Steniowski is involved as well, although he was...
Abbasads of Central Coast.
Yeah.
But no, all of them wanted to play for Sydney Croatia because it was a pathway to Europe and bigger things. So, a lot of them did get to live that dream. So,
geez, we are really, really getting behind time. We're going to take a very, very short break. When we return, we've got the president of Western Knights, Dean ZLENDIC, waiting in the green room, itching to get on. He's got a lot to talk about the club. They're doing very well. 3 from 3 over in the Football West State League 1 competition. Let's talk to Dean ZLENDIC a little bit more about what is going on over in the West. Don't go away, folks. We'll be back straight away.
Welcome to ZLENDIC Studio Architecture. Our approach combines modern design with harmonious solutions tailored to your unique needs. We listen closely to your vision and turn it into a functional, beautiful living environment that truly feels like home. Our designs cater to your needs and evolve with you over time, encouraging deeper connections with family and friends. Specializing in custom residential homes and boutique apartments, we balance luxury and comfort to create a welcoming atmosphere for everyone to enjoy. Discover a world of inviting and captivating design at www.slavicekstudio.com.au. Contact us for a journey from idea to reality. ZLENDIC Studio Architecture, turning your dreams into reality.
Welcome back to the Oz Cro Soccer Show. I like that English accent pronouncing that ZLENDIC Studio Architecture. But big shout out to Robbie Slavicek, our episode sponsor for today. And as a result of ZLENDIC Studio Architecture sponsoring the episode 32, they've nominated the club that they would like featured in this week's Club in Focus, and that is the Western Knights. And joining us on the live from Perth is the president of the Western Knights, Dean ZLENDIC. Dean, you haven't been blown away by any cyclones or anything like that yet?
No, not yet, mate. It hasn't reached us down here, so
good to hear.
we're safe at this point in time. How are you guys?
Good, mate. Good. It's been a bit wet and miserable over in Victoria, but that's always the weather down here in kind of in Melbourne and Geelong. But no, it hasn't been too bad. We've had a lot of fun things happening over here, but we want to know about what's happening over in the West. And it's what a start to the season so far, as Ante in his news segment said. 3 wins from 3 starts. It's a great start.
Yeah, very happy. We made some big changes with our squad. I was just going through the list now. We've got 11 new players this year, so we made some big changes, and that was something that we sort of highlighted at the end of last year that we needed to do. So we brought in a younger crop of players, and so far 3 from 3. Yeah, definitely a good start. We've scored 11 goals, conceded 1. So yeah, it's a really good start. Can't complain about that.
And where did you acquire those players from, Dean? Did you acquire them from other clubs, or did you acquire them, where did you get them from?
Yeah, locally from other clubs. So, we get into work pretty quickly after the season ends, and we identify what types of players we need, and obviously the coach and our team manager and myself get involved pretty quickly, and then target some players and have discussions with them and get them across as quickly as we can.
That's a really interesting question, Ante. Dean, we've seen over here in Victoria a couple of Western Australians come over to Melbourne Knights and North Geelong. Steve Sokol, what a name, Sokol. Apparently he's not Croatian though, but Sokol and Steve Fidel, I think it is as well, went to the Knights and now he's at North Geelong. So we do see this every year, a steady stream of Sandgropers come over to the east and play in the Victorian NPL competition. Don't know if that's the case like that in the New South Wales NPL competition, aren't there? Are there many players from WA that come over?
Oh, there's players from different states, and there's players from different countries that come over. So it's a really interesting, like wherever there's scouts and managers, and obviously they can fit well, as long as they're good players, they're very welcome.
Do you find, Dean, with taking all that into account, that you find players from the eastern states coming over to WA, or do you find that the talent pool then becomes a little bit more shrunken, and hence it's a lot more competitive trying to attract or lure new players over?
Yeah, we find it hard to attract players from the east. If there are players that come over from the East Coast, they generally choose an NPL club, and obviously would rather go to an NPL club. We're not an NPL club yet, so that's the issue that we have. So being Divi 1 and being in the situation that we're in, always in that sort of top sort of 3, and that's where we've been, in the last 10 years since I've been back in the committee involved. It's really hard to get those players because they want to come to the club. They're really, they know that our culture is good. But the one thing they do say to us, oh, look, you're not NPL, we want to go. So that's where it gets a bit tricky. So that's where we try and target players that are probably in an NPL team and maybe, just, on the bench players, that can make an impact. And in saying that, we actually targeted a Divi 2 player as well, and we brought him across, and he's been a really important player for us so far this year. So that's the way we approach it. But no, to answer your question, recruiting players from the East is pretty difficult.
Ante.
Indeed. We've got a big match this weekend against DNL. I saw them on Channel 9 News a couple of weeks ago, so hopefully, we can get another victory there, right? How big's the rivalry there between Western Knights and DNL White Eagles?
Look, I don't think I need to tell you guys how big the rivalry is. At the end of the day, we're really focused on going there and getting the points. That's really our focus. It's going to be a hostile environment, I'm sure, as it is at our ground when supporters come to our ground. So, we'll go there and get the chocolates. That's our main aim. We want to continue to win. Winning's a habit, and we want to definitely get the points on Saturday.
Is it considered a high risk security type of game? Do the local police and the association start to watch these games with a little bit more sort of what's the word, attention, if you like, or look, it's pretty much just a normal league game.
Oh no, actually they don't. They don't put too much attention to it at all, to be honest. So yeah, the simple answer is no.
Yeah. Good stuff. Now, off the field, let's talk about off the field at Western Knights. More and more of the second, third generation Australians of Croatian descent are starting to get involved in the club. I mean, we talked about Melbourne Knights being 70 years old, and unfortunately, a lot of the forefathers and the founding fathers are no longer around, and a lot of those people that have been involved in the club over the years. So it is obviously time for a generational change and all that. How are you? We talk about attracting recruits and to those players. What's it like with regards to attracting volunteers and club officials and committee members? How are things going with that off the field at the Western Knights?
Look, it gets more difficult as the years go by. There's no doubt about it. I think I mentioned earlier, I've been back at the club in a committee sense now for 10 years. And out of the majority of those committee members that are involved this year, most of them have been started with me back 10 years ago. So there hasn't been much turnover. We've had your couple that have come in over the last few years, but other than that, it's just that core group. So it is a struggle. And that's a really good question. It is a struggle. A lot of people put their hand up and will help, whether it be at game days, at functions, but they don't want to take the next step and join the committee. So that's something that we're trying to work on, especially that next generation. I'm 51, so we're hoping that we can attract people in those roles, in their 30s. That's really where that next crop of volunteers and administrative people going to come from. So that is a tough sort of situation for us at the moment, and I'm sure it is all over the country.
Yeah, you mentioned that it's quite tough and, everywhere. I mean, hats off to everyone who was on a committee. It's not an easy task, but, what are the most rewarding things about being on the committee? In these past years that you've been involved in, what are the things that you look back upon and you say you're really proud of?
Oh, look, many things. Look, this year, guys, it's our 55th anniversary. So 55 years, we started in 1968, a huge achievement for the club. Back in 2017, when we last won a trophy, that was massive. We won the league. We got into we won the cup, the state cup, and we obviously got to the final 32 and represented the state over at the Gold Coast. So in recent time, that's been the biggest achievements for us. Our juniors continue to grow. We just got new lights put up, 100 lux lighting put up at our juniors base in the south of the river. So we got two bases. So our juniors base down in the south of the river, we've just got some new lighting that went up last year. So that was a massive windfall for us, and we have that ground exclusively. So look. Yeah, there's a lot to like. And we also have a new 5-year lease at Nashfield at our home base at Mosman Park where our senior teams play. So there's a lot of good things happening. But look, a lot of work to do. I think I mentioned it last year and it goes without saying, we are striving to get into the NPL. We're really determined. Across our entire committee, our support base and coaching group. We really want to get to that summit and we want to get promotion. So that's the sort of aim and the goal.
Well, 55 years, that's fantastic. It seems like a lot of Australian Croatian clubs are celebrating their birthdays this year. As we said, the Melbourne Knights 70th anniversary on Monday, Western Knights 55 years this year. And just to prove that the Oz Cro Soccer Show is yes, very much we talk about Australian Croatian football, but it's not just for Australians of Croatian descent. Very, very active on the chats is Mark Sultana, who's actually the president of Caroline Springs George Cross, a very, very famous club down in Melbourne, a Maltese community club. Cheerio to Mark, who's been a big supporter of the Football Out West show, one of our sister podcasts. But they've got it's a Maltese club, but they've got a very, very strong Croatian flavour there and have had many, many Croatian players play over the years. And in fact, their senior coach, Eric Vasiliadis, is married to a Croatian, so I guess that makes him a Hrvatski Zet, doesn't it? But good to see. But it's great. And look, Dean, I'm sure you'll agree here. It's great having a lot of non-Croatians that come and feel very welcome at our Croatian clubs, and they all feel part of the furniture. And one particular fella who's involved at your club is your technical director, Ein Eric. He's been involved with the club for 10 years. He's not Croatian, but he might as well be. He's got an itch on the end of his surname, or it's, we're going to have to change it to Ein Eric, But what can you tell us about Ein?
Oh, look, when we heard he was coming back to Perth at the beginning of this year, we were just, over the moon, and got in touch with him and said, look, let's just have a coffee. And before we knew it, he accepted the job as our juniors TD, our juniors sort of coordinator and TD. And we just have such great memories of him. He was with the club between 2007 to 2016, I think it was. Yep. So 10 years, pretty much coached all our juniors teams in that time. Coached our reserves team, coached our women's team, and then sadly at the time decided to move over to Melbourne. But like I said, when he came back at the beginning of the year, it was just so, he, like you said, non-Croatian, but he just understands, how we operate, how we think, and our culture, and has as much passion as we do for our club, and it's just a huge win for us. So I made comment to the rest of the committee when we got him over. I said it's the biggest coup for the club this year. It really was a big win for us.
Now, Ante, I'm glad that Dean said some really, really nice things about Ein, because Ein's coming on, and here he is. He's joins us tonight. Ein, thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad the president said some nice words about you. Imagine he said some really not so nice words about you. But thank you for joining us on the show. Technical director at the Western Knights. We talk about early in the show about a lot of the young talent that is starting to come up through the ranks of a lot of these clubs. But, mate, you've got a real finger in the pie as far as that development is concerned. Tell us what's happening there at Western Knights. And you can also tell us what the president's like, really.
No, I like what you said about my surname. It's exactly what they call me at the club.
Is that right?
They've Croatianized me. But in all due course, I started my coaching in the Knights after getting injured. So I do owe the club quite a fair bit. I've done all my licenses at the club. So coming back to Perth, it was pretty much a no-brainer. I like how Dean said that it was a cup of coffee. It was pretty much like, hey, what you doing? Okay, I'll join. That was pretty much it. That was exactly what happened when I came back. But in terms of what we're doing in the Knights, I'm actually quite excited. The fact that we now have 2 venues for juniors, to me, that's something really new, and that wasn't there in the past. And I think that in our new Coolbellup base, it will really grow the club. I mean, if Dean hasn't mentioned, we have 200 plus juniors. When we started in 2007, we only started with 60 or less. I think we were lucky to have 60. So over that time, we've grown that much. And I know there were some fluctuations. I think we touched more than 200 at one point. But starting fresh from this year, around a bit more than 200. I'd say a bit more than that as the season comes. But we actually have had to ask some kids just hold off for this year. So we actually can get more, to be honest. But as Dean mentioned, compared to Melbourne, and I spent the last 8 years in Melbourne, you stick your head out, you find a coach. You stick your head out here, you don't see a coach, you get shot. So big difference. Big difference. And that's probably why they got me back. There's no one else around.
So were were you coaching in Melbourne as well, Ian? Were you getting more
yeah.
experience over there?
Oh,
Who were you involved with?
I was I was with in Don Barber's senior coaching team. So I coached at Port Melbourne, Box Hill, Geelong Soccer Club, and then I sort of came back. So yeah, I've been to a fair few grounds. Been to Springvale, sorry. Been to Geelong, North Geelong, friendly games and things like that. But I think the last 3 years, as you know, if you guys in Melbourne, we got hit by COVID, so that put
Yeah.
a lot of that put a hold quite a fair few. I think 2020 was like the longest preseason history, and we didn't get anywhere. If you guys remembered.
Yeah, it was quite annoying. Actually, I'm from Geelong, and who was the coach when you were there? Was it Don Barber when you were
Don
at
Barber as
Geelong?
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I dealt with him quite well. Now at Geelong, obviously a Macedonian community-based club, a very proud Macedonian club, a lovely club.
Yeah.
We've got friendly rivalry on and off the field with North Geelong. But how would you compare, say, working at a Macedonian club compared to a Croatian club? Very similar, very different. What were some of the things that you kind of really hit you?
I would say so. I think the one thing I love with the Knights is the community. The Macedonian club was almost similar. So they welcomed a complete stranger from Perth at the time to Macedonian club. I did say when I came back that I think the support around Melbourne is 10 times more intense. I think there was a game at Port Melbourne where we faced Melbourne Knights, and I would have built more secure with security. No, I did go to North Geelong a couple of times as well. I thought North Geelong almost similar to the Western Knights in terms of community feel. But I think all credit to the Croatian people. They're really welcoming. I mean, I'm in the middle of nowhere, and they've welcomed me in open arms. So it's all good.
Yeah, fantastic.
What are the qualities you look for in a player, Ian? I mean, it's not just on-field ability, is it? It seems like more and more it's like personality, off-field ability, psychology, all those sort of things come into it at play as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think in credit to the Western Knights, we've had players which has gone through the junior system and have represented Knights. What if Dean hasn't mentioned, his son is in the first team, training with the first team. So he was the first batch when I was last TD at the club 10 years ago. So the fact that when I came back, I found that out, I was pleasantly quite happy. And I said to Dean, the challenge now is to get more into the 18s, reserves, and first team over the next 5 years. So that's something which I've said to the club, we need to get back. We used to have 3-4 players in the first team who were part of the juniors. Mention out to the Jukic brothers a few years back. They were the heart and soul of the club, along with their father, who was Nit Jukic. So I think that's important. But personally, I'm not one to rate talent as much. I rate hard work, and I think that's where the Croatian people at the club are really hardworking. What Dean hasn't pointed out is it also goes down to the volunteers. For years now, regardless through rain, sun, COVID, they're always there. So I think that's important in a player as well. Commitment to the club. You're not there for the money. I'm certainly not here for the money. I'm here to be part of the club, and I think that's important. Same as the players. I think your heart is important, more important than what you can do with your feet.
Yeah. Now let's talk about yourself, Ian. You completed your C license way back in 2009, and then 2011 your B license, and recently you completed 2 components of your A license. And that's pending assessments, I'm told. Yeah, that's awesome. So obviously you've really looked at this as a long-term thing and almost like a career type of thing as well. Let's talk about the level of coaching in Australia. That your opinion. Are we heading in the right direction in Australia with regards to coaching education? And maybe is there too much emphasis being put on any one particular part, whether it's the coaching philosophy or whether it's the certain formations and this and that? Or are we actually overall starting to generate and starting to produce a really good batch of quality coaches?
That's a really good question. I started way back in 2009 with the C license, and at that stage, I think they first introduced the FFA C license into the program. So I think I was maybe one of the first few who went through it, did it at the AIS. and we were trained how to be Dutch, which is quite funny. So I've seen the progression from that stage to now. In my opinion, I do believe it is heading in a really good direction. I think you got the likes of Ron Smith and all the coachings up there on how to to coach the Australian way and to how to coach Australian players. I do believe that is a good move. Seeing this firsthand for the last 10, 15 years, going through all sorts of training systems, and the focus now isn't about what you put on the pitch as well. It's all about your philosophy is how you see your teams being set out, and I think that's really good. So in my opinion, I think it's starting to show some really good colors in terms of you can bring certain elements of coming from a Croatian club into your coaching as well. So being a Western Knights for such a long time, I do have that a little bit in my coaching touch, for no better term.
That's interesting. So a little bit of the influences as well, type of thing. Yeah, that's fantastic. Ante?
Yeah. So what's the reward that you get out of this role now? Obviously, do you prefer playing or do you prefer being the TD? What do you prefer?
I prefer coaching. I think I prefer coaching. So I am a TD, which Dean does laugh at. But my heart and soul is more into coaching. But as I said to Dean, I was trying to take the year off to try and just assess things and things like that. It's quite funny because in 2020 I did have an interview back in Malaysia, but because of COVID that sort of died off. So yeah, I mean, I will look to that in a few years, but I think first of all I need to complete my A license, which is through assessments. So I've got to the end of the year to do that. If not, let's see how we go.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, can I ask what nationality is that? Is that Malaysian? Did you say?
Yeah, I'm Malaysian.
Yeah. Now we've seen the coaching influence, so you've actually started getting a little bit of that Croatian style. And have you managed to get the Dean and the rest of the committee on side to maybe introduce a couple of Malaysian specialties on Chavape nights and things like that? The Friday night fish nights. I love Malaysian. There could be a little bit of a fusion there. Hey,
I'm through and through either Burek or Shabab, man.
Burek Shabab.
Good man.
That's the secret. That's what's kept him there at the club for 10 years. Is that right, Dean?
That's why I came back. That's why I came back.
Correct.
Don't blame the man. Ian, thank you so much for joining us here on the Oz Cro Soccer Show. We're going to have to get you back. By the way, Slavicek Studio Architecture have sponsored 3 upcoming episodes throughout the year where they've nominated the Western Knights as their club in focus. So we'll be hearing and seeing a lot more of the Western Knights throughout 2023, and hopefully we'll be able to get you back on the show, Ian. And maybe later on in the year we'll have a bit of a progress update with the junior development side of things there at the club. But in the meantime, keep doing what you're doing, mate. You are definitely a shining positive influence there at the Knights, and keep it up.
Yeah, all good. Thanks, mate. Thanks, Dean.
Good on you.
Fantastic.
That's Ian, Eric, and Dean. It's. I mean, he radiates positivity, isn't he?
He does. Yeah, that's
kids must love him.
Oh, they do, and everyone at the club does. The coaches, all the junior coaches, he just communicates so well. Like you said, he's so positive and full of energy, and has some really good philosophies and just simple, basic philosophies. And he has an understanding of what's required, similar understanding to us as Croatians. So I think he's a ripping bloke. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Speak.
Sorry, Tonci.
Go on, Ante.
No, I was just going to say.
Speak.
I was just going to say it's really rewarding, particularly when we go to a Croatian soccer tournament or something like that, and we see the number of non-Croats that are involved in a Croatian club that come out either coaches or players and just immerse themselves in the culture and just love, even the music. They know Volim Piti, of course, and things like that. So it's just fantastic to see, and it just shows that the Croatian clubs have a great place to play in the Australian sporting culture.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true.
Very true. Dean, thank you so much for joining us on the Oz Cro Soccer Show, episode 2 of our season 2. And as we said, thanks to Robert Slavicek and Slavicek Studio Architecture, we will be seeing more of the Western Knights in months to come, weeks to come, and months to come. And you've promised us a date with Adam Kostrencic, the senior coach as well. He wasn't able to come in today, but we will have him on a future episode. We look forward to that. Hopefully, he can maintain the 100% record by the time we get to him in a month or so.
That's the aim, guys. And yeah, look, a big shout out to Rob, a big friend of the club's, big friend of mine. He's a ripping bloke, and yeah, thank him for sponsoring your show. It's a great show, and giving us the opportunity to have a chat and speak to the rest of the country. A big shout out to our sponsors as well, in particular our major sponsor, DTMT, our Gorsi Minerals and Romano Smash Repairs, and Cross Asia as well. And yeah, look, again, like I said, we look forward to continuing on the winning ways. And yeah, this Saturday is a big game, as you mentioned earlier. Yeah, it's the focus is to just continue to get the wins on the board.
Okay, that's the way. All right, mate. We're wishing you all the very best for the season ahead. And like I said, we look forward to having you on the show in coming weeks.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you so much, Dean. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Slavicek Studio Architecture. Our approach combines modern design with harmonious solutions tailored to your unique needs. We listen closely to your vision and turn it into a functional, beautiful living environment that truly feels like home. Our designs cater to your needs and evolve with you over time, encouraging deeper connections with family and friends. Specializing in custom residential homes and boutique apartments, we balance luxury and comfort to create a welcoming atmosphere for everyone to enjoy. Discover a world of inviting and captivating design at www.slavicekstudio.com.au. Contact us for a journey from idea to reality. Slavicek Studio Architecture, turning your dreams into reality.
Welcome back to the Oz Cro Soccer Show. And we've got, well, we're almost at the end of our show, but mate, you've got a couple of things to mention, aren't you?
Yes, we see Karl Zhukovic has sent us a few messages, and he's saying that he's going to send a few photos through from Dinamo Zagreb's game on Sunday. So hopefully he's over there. That'll be fantastic. But of course, I want to mention Newcastle, Croatia actually in action this weekend. Speaking of Karl Zhukovic, and they are at home against Bolwara Saturday, April 15, Pasadena Oval, round 1. Get on down there. 29 years they did not exist, and here they are back again.
Yeah,
so,
what a success
fantastic
story.
So this is a brilliant success story. They won the grand final last year, and so they've moved up a couple of the divisions. So everyone in Newcastle go out and support the boys at Pasadena Oval at 2:30 p.m. on Saturday.
Now, Ante, we did feature Newcastle, Croatia, Zhivko and the boys from up there in the Hunter Valley last year on one of our episodes. We'd love to have Newcastle, Croatia featured again this year, and some of those other clubs from last year, Gorspic Bears, Gold Coast Knights, list goes on and on with Zagreb, Hurstville. O'Connor Knights from Canberra, yes, as well. We have the Adelaide Croatia Raiders. Glenorchy. Did we have Glenorchy featured last year? I'm not too sure. But get your club to sponsor an episode and be a club feature of the show. All the details are right there below. If your club would like to sponsor an upcoming episode of the Oz Cro Soccer Show, contact us now by emailing ozcrosoccershow@gmail.com or call me on 0402 012 716. That's 0402 012 716. We'd love to feature your club. We've got St Albans Dinamo coming up in weeks to come, weeks ahead. We got Western Knights as well. We also are going to feature Guelph, Croatia as well from the Perth. Once again, thank you to Robert Slavicek and Slavicek Studio Architecture. But we would love to see more and more clubs from around Australia featured, because it's an opportunity for us to really get to know what's happening with those various clubs and communities. But Ante, what else is going on?
That's about it. Just looking forward to the weekend. Of course, tomorrow night, the Sydney United Cup match. Glenorchy have got a match this weekend as well on Friday night, 14th of April, 8:15 p.m. Kickoff at home at KGV Park against South Hobart. And Glenorchy are currently in fourth position after 3 rounds down in Tassie as well.
Yeah, great stuff. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. We hope next week to have the president of the Croatian Soccer Association of Australia, Jure Dragovic, direct from Croatia. He's over there as part of a Australian-Croatian under-14 select team, which is any minute now about to jet down at the Dr. Franjo Tuđman Airport in Zagreb, bound for Vukovar, where they will be setting up camp for the next few days, and they will be taking part in a very auspicious under-14 youth football tournament called the Turnir Hrvatskih Branitelja in Vukovar. All the very, very best under-14 teams from around Croatia, and indeed the Croatian communities outside of Croatia, will be taking part. And for the first time, we will have our own select from Australia. I think it's 6 or 8 boys from Sydney, thereabouts from Melbourne, from teams like Melbourne Knights. I think there's Dandenong City, St Albans Dynamo, and also a lad or two from North Geelong Warriors as well. So that hopefully will be able to bring you all the latest with regards to that. And we may even have another special guest for next week's episode, but more about that a little bit later on. Ante, good night, and let's hope Hajduk can get through past Slaven Belupo to set up an all-Dalmatian HNS Cup final in Rijeka in about a month's time. That would be awesome, wouldn't it?
That'll be a classic. And thank you, Mark Sultana, for all the messages as well. Absolutely fantastic. And everyone who's
President of a Maltese
well,
community-backed club.
Keep going.
Yeah, and he's really supporting and urging all the Croatian clubs. So there you go, folks. If the president of a Maltese community-backed club, and a great club at that, can urge you all guys to sponsor and jump on board the show, then come on, what are you waiting for? On that note, thank you very much for being a part of episode 2 of season 2 of the Oz Cro Soccer Show. We look forward to your company again next Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Until then, do viđenja.
Laku noć.